Did you know that the UK's economy shrank faster in 2025 than any other G7 country? And that inflation here has been twice as stubborn as in the United States or Europe? Right now, millions of households are struggling with soaring bills, falling wages, and a housing market that's starting to crack. Banks are warning about rising defaults, businesses are folding under pressure, and the government's debt is ballooning to record highs. It's a storm that's been building quietly for years, and in 2025, it could hit full force. But is the UK really on the verge of an economic collapse? Or is this just another rough patch in a long history of ups and downs? Today, we're uncovering the 10 major reasons why experts are sounding the alarm. Some of these factors are obvious, but others will truly surprise you, like hidden risks buried deep inside the financial system that barely anyone is talking about. By the end of this video, you'll understand the full picture and why what's happening in Britain could ripple out and affect the entire world. So grab a seat, because what you're about to hear might change how you see the future. Let's dive right in. Number 1. Stubborn inflation rates. Let's start with a big one: inflation. Even as the rest of the world begins to cool off, the UK is still feeling the burn. In fact, Britain's inflation rate stayed above 5% for most of 2024, nearly double the rate seen in the United States and most of Europe. You might be thinking, but prices always go up, right? True, a little inflation is normal, but when prices skyrocket faster than wages, everyday life becomes a real struggle. Groceries, gas, rent, all eating bigger chunks out of people's paychecks, with no relief in sight. The Bank of England has tried to fight back, raising interest rates to the highest levels since 2008. But here's the catch: raising rates also slows down the economy. Businesses invest less, people borrow less, growth starts to freeze. It's like trying to put out a fire with a fire hose that's so powerful, it knocks down the entire house. Even worse, new studies from the International Monetary Fund show that the UK's inflation is more deeply rooted compared to other nations. Energy shocks, Brexit-related trade costs, and worker shortages have all piled on, making it much harder to bring prices under control. And when inflation stays high for too long, it starts changing people's expectations. Businesses keep raising prices. Workers demand bigger raises. A dangerous cycle spins out of control, and once it takes hold, it's very, very hard to stop. This stubborn inflation isn't just painful. It's a warning sign that the economy might be heading towards something much more serious. And unfortunately, this is just the beginning. Number 2. Weak productivity growth. Now onto another silent killer of economic strength: weak productivity growth. Since the 2008 financial crash, the UK's productivity has barely budged. In fact, according to the Office for National Statistics, Britain's productivity growth rate is the lowest it's been in over 2 centuries. Let's break it down simply. Productivity measures how much value a worker creates in an hour. In a healthy economy, each hour of work should become more valuable over time, thanks to better skills, smarter technology, and improved systems. But in the UK, that's not happening. Imagine trying to run a marathon where you have to work twice as hard just to stay in the same place. That's what weak productivity feels like for businesses, workers, and the entire economy. The reasons behind this slowdown are complex, from underinvestment in infrastructure and education to the aftershocks of Brexit and political instability. The World Economic Forum even ranked the UK lower than many of its peers in key areas like innovation and digital skills. And when productivity stalls, so does everything else. Wages stay flat, living standards slip, and the economy becomes more fragile, less able to weather shocks like recessions or global crises. This isn't just a boring number economists argue about. It's something that touches every part of everyday life, from how much you earn to how secure your job is. What do you think is holding back Britain's productivity the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're finding this video eye-opening so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more coming your way. Number 3. Post-Brexit trade barriers. Picture this. A shop owner in Manchester wakes up one morning to find that half of her suppliers in Europe are charging extra fees, demanding mountains of paperwork, and delaying deliveries by weeks. Now imagine that story playing out across thousands of businesses up and down the country. That's the real impact of post-Brexit trade barriers, and it's been quietly bleeding the UK economy dry. Before Brexit, goods flowed freely across borders. No customs checks, no major paperwork, no friction. Today, everything's different. Even simple transactions, like sending a single package to France or Germany, can involve multiple forms, inspections, and surprise costs. According to the UK Trade Policy Observatory, British exports to the EU dropped by 15% after the transition period ended. Small businesses, in particular, have been hit the hardest, many forced to abandon overseas markets altogether because the cost and complexity simply aren't worth it anymore. But it's not just businesses. Consumers feel it too. Imported goods are more expensive. Choice is shrinking. Waiting times are longer. Meanwhile, major industries like agriculture, fishing, and manufacturing, once touted as the winners of Brexit, are battling new restrictions, quotas, and red tape they never had before. Brexit was sold as a chance to open new doors. But for many sectors, it's ended up slamming old ones shut, hard. And here's the most worrying part: rebuilding those trade relationships won't happen overnight. Every month of disruption means more lost opportunities, more strained ties, and a deeper hole to climb out of. The true cost of these trade barriers. It's not just economic, it's about trust, reputation, and momentum that may take a generation to fully restore. Number 4, a shrinking workforce. Behind the headlines and economic forecasts, there's a quieter crisis unfolding. Britain simply doesn't have enough workers. Over the last few years, the workforce has been shrinking at a worrying pace. First, Brexit reduced the flow of younger, skilled workers from Europe. Then the pandemic hit, pushing thousands into early retirement or long-term illness. And now, in 2025, the cracks are wide open. According to the Office for National Statistics, the number of people aged 16 to 64 who are economically inactive, meaning they're not working and not even looking for work, has risen sharply. Sectors like healthcare, construction, agriculture, and hospitality are desperate for staff. Jobs are going unfilled for months. Businesses are cutting hours or turning away customers simply because they don't have enough people. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a serious drag on the entire economy. When there aren't enough workers, growth slows. When businesses can't expand, investment dries up. When services collapse under the strain, public trust erodes. Wages are being pushed higher in some sectors to attract scarce talent, which sounds like good news, until you realize that higher wages often mean higher prices for everyone else. It feeds right back into inflation. And here's the kicker: an aging population means this problem is set to get even worse over the next decade. More retirees, fewer workers, heavier pressure on public services like healthcare and pensions. Without a strong, growing workforce, the UK risks falling into a cycle of slow decline. Fewer taxpayers, weaker innovation, and a government struggling to fund even the basics. It's a ticking time bomb that's already started counting down. Number 5. Housing market instability. For years, owning a home in the UK has felt like chasing a mirage, always just out of reach for millions. Now, in 2025, the dream is starting to crack under the weight of cold, hard reality. After a decade of rock-bottom interest rates, the tide has turned. The Bank of England's rapid rate hikes, aimed at cooling inflation, have sent mortgage costs soaring. Monthly payments have doubled for some families almost overnight. And it's not just new buyers feeling the heat. Homeowners who locked in cheap fixed rates a few years ago are now facing brutal adjustments when their deals expire. Thousands are staring down the barrel of repossessions, defaults, and forced sales. According to Nationwide, UK house prices have already fallen by nearly 10% from their peak. And some experts warn that the slide isn't over yet. It's a vicious cycle. High rates crush affordability. Fewer people can buy, demand drops, prices fall, and negative equity starts to spread. People who once thought of their homes as safe investments are waking up to find themselves trapped, owing more on their mortgage than their home is now worth. And when the housing market shakes, the tremors ripple out fast. Construction slows, consumer spending drops, confidence collapses. Banks tighten lending. Every corner of the economy feels the shockwaves. Housing is more than just a roof over your head. It's the foundation of financial security for millions. And when that foundation starts to crumble, the consequences can be devastating for families, communities, and the nation as a whole. The UK's housing market isn't just unstable, it's a ticking time bomb, and the clock is getting louder. Number 6. Government debt crisis. Debt, it's a word that usually lives in the background of national conversations. But in 2025, it's marching right to the front of the stage. Today, the UK's public debt has climbed to over 100% of GDP, meaning the government owes more money than the entire economy produces in a year. That's not just a number on a spreadsheet, it's a flashing warning light for the future. During the pandemic, massive borrowing made sense. Emergency spending kept businesses afloat and hospitals running. But those debts didn't disappear once the crisis ended. Instead, they grew even larger as the government faced energy bailouts, inflation support packages, and slow economic growth. According to the Office for Budget Responsibility, interest payments on Britain's debt are now one of the largest expenses in the entire government budget, even bigger than education in some forecasts. Think about it. Every pound spent paying off old debts is a pound not spent on schools, hospitals, or building new infrastructure. Worse yet, with higher global interest rates, borrowing has become more expensive. The UK can't simply borrow its way out like it once could. And if investors ever lose confidence in the government's ability to manage its finances, things could spiral fast. Falling currency value, even higher borrowing costs, and brutal austerity measures. This isn't a crisis that explodes overnight. It's a slow squeeze, tightening year after year, until vital services are starved of funds and economic growth grinds to a halt. Managing debt responsibly was once seen as a long-term goal. Now it's becoming a battle for survival. Number 7. Energy price volatility. Imagine waking up to find your energy bill has doubled, again. For millions of UK households, that nightmare became a reality in the past 2 years. And the bad news? The chaos isn't over yet. The UK's energy system has become dangerously exposed to global shocks. A heavy reliance on imported gas, combined with an unpredictable global market, means prices can skyrocket almost overnight, triggered by anything from a cold winter to a distant political crisis. In 2022, we saw the first signs. The war in Ukraine sent natural gas prices soaring to record highs. Families faced impossible choices between heating and eating. Businesses struggled to keep the lights on. Government support schemes helped, but they also cost billions, adding to the growing national debt. Today, even with prices somewhat stabilized, volatility is baked into the system. Ofgem, the UK's energy regulator, has warned that sudden spikes could happen again with little warning. And it's not just gas. Aging infrastructure, slow progress on renewable energy projects, and delays in building new nuclear plants all make Britain's energy future uncertain and expensive. Every surge in energy costs doesn't just hit utility bills. It drives up production costs, shipping costs, food prices, creating ripple effects across the entire economy. Energy is the lifeblood of modern life. When it becomes unstable, everything becomes unstable, from grocery store shelves to public transportation. And while other countries with abundant natural resources can shield themselves, Britain remains dangerously exposed to the wild swings of the global market. In a world where energy is power, the UK's grip is slipping, and the consequences could be far more devastating than most people realise. Number 8. Political instability and policy uncertainty. Imagine trying to steer a massive ship through a storm. But every few months, the captain changes, the crew gets reshuffled, and the map is thrown overboard. That's what governing Britain has looked like in recent years. Since 2016, the UK has seen 5 prime ministers, multiple snap elections, and endless cabinet reshuffles. Each new leader comes with new promises, new slogans, and new uncertainties for businesses, investors, and everyday citizens trying to plan for the future. And it's not just leadership chaos. Policy direction swings wildly too. Tax plans are announced, then scrapped. Trade deals are signed, then questioned. Environmental goals are set, then watered down. It's a cycle of confusion that makes long-term planning almost impossible. According to research from the Institute for Government, Political instability has added billions of pounds in uncertainty costs to the UK economy, driving away foreign investment, delaying critical infrastructure projects, and freezing business expansion. When businesses don't know what rules they'll be operating under in 6 months, they hesitate. When global investors see instability, they take their money elsewhere. And when citizens lose faith in leadership, social trust erodes, making it harder to tackle big challenges like climate change, education reform, or healthcare funding. Political drama might make for good headlines, but behind the scenes, it's choking the economy slowly but surely. Stability isn't just a nice-to-have, it's the foundation of economic confidence, and right now, that foundation in Britain is full of cracks. If the political roller coaster doesn't slow down, the economic ride could get much, much rougher. Number 9. Financial sector vulnerabilities. At first glance, London still looks like one of the world's great financial capitals, towering skyscrapers, bustling trading floors, and global banks calling the shots. But beneath the surface, serious cracks are forming. Since Brexit, London's dominance in finance has been under quiet but steady pressure. Major institutions have moved billions of pounds in assets to cities like Frankfurt, Paris, and Amsterdam. Some firms shifted jobs out of the UK entirely to maintain access to European markets, and the competition is growing fiercer. New financial hubs, better aligned with emerging global regulations, are challenging London's once unquestioned supremacy. According to the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, there's an increasing risk that the UK could fall behind in key areas like fintech innovation, green finance, and regulatory transparency. Without continuous adaptation, Britain risks losing not just money, but influence. There's another danger too: regulatory divergence. Trying to create a light-touch environment to attract business could backfire, exposing the UK to financial instability. We saw something similar in 2008, a reminder that loose rules can sometimes spark major crises. Meanwhile, rising interest rates have made the financial system more fragile. Corporate defaults are ticking up. Smaller banks face growing risks, and if a major institution were to wobble, the shockwaves would ripple far beyond the City of London, hitting pensions, savings, and investments across the country. The financial sector isn't just another piece of the economy, it's a critical pillar, supporting jobs, funding businesses, and underpinning the government's ability to borrow and invest. If that pillar weakens, the consequences won't be contained behind the glass towers of Canary Wharf. They'll be felt in every corner of the UK economy. Number 10. Global economic pressures. Even if the UK had a perfect plan, a strong government, and booming industries, it still wouldn't be immune to forces far beyond its borders. Because right now, the entire global economy is under strain, and Britain, as a major trading nation, is caught in the crossfire. Growth is slowing across the board. The World Bank predicts that global GDP expansion will fall to one of its lowest levels in decades. Major economies like China are stumbling under debt. The US faces its own battles with inflation and political division, and Europe continues to wrestle with energy instability and demographic decline. Every time a supply chain snaps, every time a major market contracts, the shockwaves reach British shores. Exports drop, investment dries up, currency markets wobble, and let's not forget about geopolitical tensions. War in Ukraine, rising instability in the Middle East, US-China trade disputes. Each new conflict, each new sanction, adds more weight to a system already bending under pressure. In a highly interconnected world, no nation can fully shield itself, especially not one that relies so heavily on trade, finance, and global cooperation. The UK, already battling internal weaknesses, is facing an unforgiving international environment. There's little room for error, and very few safety nets left. It's like navigating a fragile boat through stormy waters, battered by waves from all directions, with no guarantee of finding calm seas ahead. Global pressures aren't just an outside threat, they amplify every internal vulnerability the UK already faces, making a difficult road even more treacherous. And with the world's economic order shifting in unpredictable ways, the biggest challenges for Britain may still be ahead. The future of the UK economy is hanging in the balance, and your voice matters. Tell us in the comments, which of these challenges worries you the most? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you found this video eye-opening, Don't miss our last deep dive. It's packed with insights you need to know. And if you want to support the huge effort we put into these videos, please hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.